we're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium. Visits to planet Earth by alien spacecraft, successful cover-up of the best data, bodies and wreckage, for 58 years.
The bottom line is I don't believe the claim of the Air Force that all sightings can be explained.
This is the biggest secret in the history of the human race, and particularly in the history of modern government.
We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other beings.
The Canadian government is how I actually proved that the U.S. government was covering up their collection of UFO sightings and records.
America and Britain have made it very clear to a lot of countries who have the same sort of sightings and the same resources that this is something that they better not let out, not until we say it's okay.
If we would get off of this ego trip, this Western scientific ego trip, we would not become the virus of the universe that we are. Nobody really wants us out there.
The dependence on oil could be ended overnight.
We're being slowly conditioned to understand that there is life outside this planet and that we probably live in a universe and a galaxy teeming with life.
I had my own UFO sighting and said, well, case closed. There's nothing like seeing one for yourself to end the debate.
I'm absolutely sure that we are not alone in this universe.
We invite you now to come with us upon a great and wondrous journey, an adventure perhaps into your very own past, present, and future. See and hear the real stories, and most importantly, be introduced to the actual individuals who have volunteered to come forward to speak the truth.
Do flying saucers exist? Are extraterrestrials real? Is there a government cover-up?
For nearly 60 years, denial has been the only official position of the governments of the world relative to UFOs, alien abductions, and extraterrestrial contactee reports. Endless debates have raged over the thousands of documented cases that have been brought forward without official recognition. Some have been monumental incidents involving hundreds or even thousands of people.
Roswell, New Mexico, USA. July the 4th, 1947. A flying disc crashed. The debris and alien bodies were flown to Wright Field Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Suffolk, England. Rendlesham Forest, December the 26th to 28th, 1980. A triangular-shaped object illuminated the entire forest with white light. The object had a pulsing red light on top and a bank of blue lights underneath. It left ground traces and radioactive anomalies. This was a multiple witness sighting by military personnel. Belgium. The Belgium Wave, October 1989 to 1990. Hundreds of reports of lighted objects frequently described as enormous and triangular in shape. Air Force F-16s chased many of these objects. The Belgian government cooperated with civilian UFO investigators. Arizona, USA. The Phoenix Lights, March the 13th, 1997. A huge V-shaped object hovered over Phoenix for 10 to 15 minutes, observed by tens of thousands of people. Mexico. The Mexico Flap. Hundreds of objects appearing alone and in clusters appear throughout Mexico, observed by tens of thousands of people.
Flying saucers are real.
On the Black Vault, you can download documents that prove that the United States Air Force bases have been breached by UFOs, their restricted airspace, that missile silos have mysteriously been shut down due to UFOs hovering over the base. I think you download that and you read it, you conclude, yeah, okay, UFOs pose a national security threat to the U.S. government.
And in '52, I was an 8th grader and old enough to read for myself the big scream headlines that July about UFOs flying over the nation's capital and the Air Force planes not being able to catch them.
They're there and they're paying attention. Incidents happened in the Soviet Union before it collapsed. Incidents happened all over the northern U.S. Got ICBM bases where they came down, hovered over the silos, played hell with the electronics. Pictures were taken. Hundreds of witnesses watched them. It's highly classified. You'll never hear that, except from whistleblowers and big mouths like me.
Well, while I was attending Northrop Aeronautical Institute and working for Douglas Aircraft in El Segundo, California, I had heard about George Adamski, and one of the Sunday newspapers, he had his story and his pictures of contacts, plus pictures of his ships. Well, I had, by that time, seen so many during the day and the night that I felt I would like to go up and meet this gentleman. On the weekend, he would entertain people who would come to see him, military people, engineers, scientists, people from all walks of life. He had taken some beautiful pictures of the scout craft as well as the carrier ships. I went up to see him. He had a 6-inch telescope that he used to take the pictures of the flying saucers. And in using that scope, when I finished, I was just about to take my eye off the eyepiece when there was a blue-white streak that went by, and I jerked my head up to see if I could see it, and I didn't. And I looked at his 15-inch telescope dome, which was a couple of 100 yards from his house. And there was a big flare-up blue-white light, and then it kind of closed back down. No noise. First I thought it was an explosion, but it was a little slower than that. And there was an elliptical flying saucer. It looked to me like it was hovering above the ground. So I heard it increase its frequency, and it got brighter and brighter, and it was really pretty hard to look at. And it shot straight up until it looked like one of the stars. If you've ever been to Mount Palomar at night on a dark night, boy, they're big and bright. And it stopped for an instant, and then it shot over the horizon over San Diego.
We have more than one witness who have been involved in the tracking of these objects on radar. You know, many people will say, well, look, if this stuff was real, why are there no radar reports? I said, we have them. We actually have the radar tapes from the FAA.
This is not just UFOs, and this is not being visited by guys from other planets. I was to learn later that our security, our intelligence people, our military people concluded and learned we were not merely dealing with interplanetary visitation. We were being visited by guys from other star systems, which technologically, you know what that means. They're not just from another planet like Venus or Mars or somewhere. These guys are from other stars.
I'm convinced after studies since 1958 that the evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Most are not. I don't care about those. Most isotopes aren't fissionable. I don't care about the ones that aren't if I want to build a reactor.
If somebody who had the clearance to carry nuclear weapons or launch nuclear weapons saw these objects over a nuclear facility and reported it and have documents to prove it happened,